Tell us, how were things before your daughter received the stem cell treatment?
So Gracie started showing signs of autism around 18 months old, and by 2 years of age, she had the diagnosis of autism.
Yeah, what we saw was, obviously the hand flapping, nonverbal, confrontational, agitation, definitely tantrums. I mean, tantrums so bad that it would scare her own sister.
It really affected everyday life until we got the email from the company that we banked her cord blood with, saying that there was this study at Duke with the stem cells, and we got her enrolled.
Well, you've been through so much. Let's take a look at Gracie before she had a stem cell infusion.
Blow!
Candles!
We need our hand needed.
Blow your candles! Okay.
Ready? I'll help you. 1, 2, Gracie, look!
Such a beautiful,
Right?
young lady.
Adorable. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to understand, right? I come into this world and I don't understand it, and it scares me. And there's a lot of things about this world that irritate me, and I can't tell you how that is. I can't communicate to mom or dad, right? And the way I communicate it to you, it just frustrates everybody. And so it's just hard all the way around. Now, what were Gracie's results? Really, really curious about this. Following her infusion, how did she do?
Well, interestingly for us, about the 6-month period, you saw an incredibly marked improvement. I mean, robust improvement in all, verbal skills, socialization, everything that, the hand flapping, all of this really subsided.
Yeah.
And you could tell that she was, it was almost a big, it was a hyper light speed improvement in all of the symptoms, or at least the underlying symptoms of autism.
On a scale of 1 to 10, we probably rate it at 8 or 9, her improvement. It was pretty remarkable.
That's incredible.
On that note, let's meet Gracie.
Okay.
Come on.
Hi, Gracie.
There she is.
Hi, Gracie.
Hey, Gracie.
Hi.
You're on TV. How does that feel?
It feels great.
How are things going these days for you?
It's going really good. I'm in 7th grade now. I'm getting a lot of A's and B's. And I love school.
Gracie, it's so nice to meet you, and you're thriving and smiling, and we're so happy for you.
Where you get the stem cells from that you use in these procedures?
The umbilical cord's cut, baby's taken away, and then some short time thereafter, mother delivers the afterbirth, which includes the placenta and the umbilical cord and the amnion, and all of that tissue is rich in cells, and these cells are basically biologic garbage, and they're thrown away. So what we do is we take that tissue. You've reset the clock. These are day 0 cells from a baby that was just born. They have a high degree of ability to reproduce and to secrete the 3 major things that we know that they do in the body. They secrete a batch of molecules that stimulate regeneration, that decrease inflammation, and modulate the immune system. So their main job in the body is to maintain the status quo. So when you're sick, you're not maintaining the status quo. When you're 70, you're not maintaining the status quo. Look at yourself. Look at a picture of you 10 years ago or 20 years ago. You haven't maintained the status quo. Things are going south. And so these cells, their job is to maintain the status quo, and that's why I think they're so important for aging research and for chronic illness. What I do myself, and what I think is going to be ultimately the answer for a lot of age-related decline and age-related chronic diseases, is taking young healthy stem cells, for example from umbilical cord, and using those to supplement what you have. because not only do they do the job of the stem cells that you used to have, but they also stimulate what you have left to behave younger. So they are the reason you renew yourself. And one question I get quite often is, how can these stem cells treat so many conditions? And the simple answer to that is the root cause of most of those conditions is lack of stem cells. Either lack of stem cells or the ones you have left aren't working properly. So if the common cause is that, then it would make sense that the treatment of choice would be replacement of those stem cells with ones that are healthy.
I'm so honored to introduce our next speaker. I think you guys are in for a real treat. And his name is Dr. Neil Reardon, and he is from the Stem Cell Institute in Panama. And we're going to be talking today about stem cells and autism. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Reardon.
Oh, thank you, Kristen. I really appreciate the time.
Well, I am really excited because I feel like there's just a lot of questions out there when it comes to stem cell. And people, they might meet somebody, they might read something, and I think today is going to be just a great way to kind of answer a lot of those thoughts and those questions and concerns. What is the rationale behind your autism treatment protocols?
Well, the main rationale is that autism, the vast majority of people with autism have an inflammatory condition, and they have elevated inflammatory markers, and these molecules of inflammation can cause white matter swelling in the brain, and the cells that we use are mesenchymal cells. I'm just going to use the term MSC, mesenchymal stem cells, and the MSCs are our body's normal way of decreasing inflammation and basically maintaining the status quo in the body. And in autoimmune diseases, you'll find that the MSCs are in the body, which are found throughout your body. They surround every blood vessel in your body. You'll find that the MSCs are not functioning exactly as well as they could be. We see this in autoimmune diseases, and we see it in inflammatory conditions like autism. So the main rationale is that these cells, the MSCs, when they're infused, they shut down some of the inflammation that's going on in the body, and that's what we've found in autism, is that by giving them intravenously, they increase another kind of T cell that decreases the inflammation. So that's the main rationale for doing them. We wrote a paper, and I think it was published about 10 years ago, on stem cell therapy for autism, and I believe it's been downloaded some 80,000 times, which is which is a lot for a scientific article, and it's in the Journal of Translational Medicine. And in that, we describe both. We were talking about two kinds of stem cells, but the mesenchymal stem cell is very useful for inflammatory conditions, and that's the main reason we use it. And the cells we use are from the umbilical cord. So we call them day zero cells, and they're taken from live healthy births, and the mother is screened for infectious disease. And then we actually have a further screening process where because we have more than 3,000 patients, we were able to determine which the molecular signature of the cells that have the biggest anti-inflammatory effect. So we select from those umbilical cords. We might use 8. We might throw away 8 out of 10 or even more than that, depending on how they're running. But we're able to look at what the cells secrete and the capacity of the secretions of the cells to decrease inflammation. So that's the main misconception about the cells, is that they're actually becoming something in the body. And MSCs, when they're infused, they only live for 4 to 8 months. And during that period, they're secreting these molecules that are retraining the immune system to decrease the inflammation. So that's the main rationale, is using MSCs for the treatment of autism.
In fact, if I hadn't had the stem cells afterwards, my lungs completely healed from that, by the way. Did they do it intravenously?
Yeah, intravenous, and it gets stuck in your lungs. And it
Was this Dr. Reardon?
That was Reardon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked.
Stem cells are incredible, and the fact that you can't get them the way they can get them in overseas, the way you can get it in Panama where Reardon has his clinic.
And like in your 60s, man, you're not there yet, but stuff starts like giving up on you.
Yep.
It's like,
No, I feel it in my 50s.
oh yeah. How old are you?
57.
58 is when it starts, man. This
Oh,
is when
Jesus.
Yeah, that's when I first noticed it. It was like, oh, what's going on with this here, the shoulder, and I went down to Reardon, of course, who shot it up with stem cells, and it was good for like 2 years. You know.
You just got to keep going back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go back often enough.
That's the thing. I think it's just your body's just not going to heal the way it did when you were younger unless you consistently get therapy for that. So what other autoimmune diseases do you think could be assisted by this?
Well, we do a lot of MS. That's probably our number one indication. We just finished a clinical trial, prospective clinical trial. We submitted for publication. It should be coming out in the next month or so, and statistically significantly, these patients improved dramatically. And as far as side effect profile, it was highly minimal. I mean, you feel headaches and few flu-like symptoms, things like that.
And how many people?
This was with 20 people, and one of the individuals actually is clinically perfect, and all of his lesions went away. And we only did one treatment with these. Typically with MS, it's more refractory than rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis, usually after one treatment, people get a ton of benefit. With MS, they usually see after 2 or 3 treatments that they see the most benefit. And we only did one treatment in this trial. But one gentleman had 3 lesions in his brain. All 3 lesions completely disappeared. So MS is a big thing. Rheumatoid arthritis is a big thing, and I tell you, there's stories not stories, but people talking about their responses, and it's pretty incredible. There's one lady that her husband was a PhD physicist. He carried on working just so she could have insurance to afford the medications, which were around $100,000 a year for her to get treated for rheumatoid arthritis, and she came down it's a little over 3 years ago, November, and she hasn't been on any medication since. She actually started walking around the mall when she was in Panama, and then when she got home, she's completely, pain-free, and she's been pain-free for 3 years. And her husband finally retired because he didn't care about, having the insurance to pay for these very expensive drugs that she was taking. So MS, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. We don't have a lupus protocol. There's a group in China that's published 6 really good papers on lupus. It's very, very effective in their trials. We haven't done it yet. And then autism. It's not considered an autoimmune disease, but we have a trial. We just completed our autism trial with 33 enrollees. With very good results. Many of those kids became non-autistic after treatment.
So that's confusing to me because you're talking about people that are young.
Right.
So why would it have such a benefit for them?
Well, I wrote an article in 2007 about why these cells should be good for autism, and basically it's the most downloaded article this journal's ever had. I mean, something like 75,000 people have downloaded a scientific journal article, which really doesn't happen very often. But people with autism have inflammatory things going on in their body. A lot of times in the gut, there are at the end of the small intestine, there are these inflammatory nodules that look a lot like Crohn's disease, and they secrete this inflammation that then goes to the brain, inflames the white matter of the brain. The white matter of the brain swells, decreases the blood flow to the brain. All that's intertwined. And then just a few years ago, there was a study that came out, and this is what allowed us to go forward with our clinical trial. They found that there are these 2 inflammatory molecules that are MDC and TARC, and they perfectly correlate with the severity of symptoms of autism. And so we measured not only those 2, but another 30-some biomarkers. We did quantitative EEGs. We did a lot of standardized scoring with a neurologist that read them, before treatment, during treatment, after treatment. So I believe a lot of the problems with autism stem from the inflammatory status, and these cells are definitely anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, they've had some benefit with changing the diet and changing the gut biome of kids with autism. And they've made some benefits for that, and which they believe is also connected to inflammation.
Yeah, absolutely. If your immune system's freaking out every time you eat a piece of bread, and that immune system's throwing out molecules that are swelling your brain and inflaming your brain, then it makes complete sense. And yeah, I think in general the people with autism that do the best are the ones that get that addressed before they come down. There's some other doctors that do functional medicine. They look at their diet, they look at see if they have any heavy metals and that sort of thing. And the ones that just are slam dunk, do the best, have been cleaned up before they come down.
Why is this not legal here?
Well, it's considered to be a new drug by the FDA, and that's the number one reason. There are 4 countries so far that have approved MSC products. There's Canada and New Zealand were the first to.
You can go to Canada and get this done?
Well, not for only for certain conditions. So in Canada and New Zealand, they approved bone marrow MSCs, which are, in my mind, are not as good as umbilical cord, and I explain why. And then South Korea has approved umbilical cord for knee osteoarthritis only, so the cells have to be injected into the knee. And then Japan just recently approved the same product. It's used to treat a very serious acute graft versus host disease in children after they've had a bone marrow transplant.
Now, are there peer-reviewed studies or anything that shows the efficacy of this intravenous use of these stem cells?
Yeah, there are hundreds. There are hundreds. And my book, MSC, which is, you don't want to read it unless you want to go to sleep, unless you're looking for something. It really is purely a research tool. We have 800 references, and we reference every clinical trial that's ever been done with MSCs in human beings, and there are 800 of them.
Cells that you can get in the United States currently.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, the big difference.
I had from umbilical cords. I had what is it called? What's the kind that you can get here in the United States?
Well, you can. The only thing that's legal in the U.S., at least for now, I don't think it's going to last much longer, is from amnion.
Yeah,
and
that's what I got.
There's an exemption in the. It's a federal exemption for the use of amnion for wound covering, and a lot of people have now translated. Now they're using it in joints and things like that. But
you don't think they're going to be able to do that very much longer?
I don't believe so.
Why is that?
Because this FDA commissioner has made it very clear that he doesn't like it, and they really haven't liked it for quite some time, because the exemption is for one thing, and doctors are using it for all kinds of other things. I don't necessarily agree with it. I just know what's coming down the pike from a regulatory standpoint, and there've been some regulatory things that have come out. They've gone after clinics, and I think they've shut down 3 places just in the last couple of months. And they haven't gone after amnion yet, but I think they're building their case for it. And unfortunately, that's what's going to happen.
Now, why would they go after it? That's what's confusing. If you've seen all these benefits, and I haven't heard anything about negative results.
I don't understand it myself, to be honest with you. It's amnion's been used clinically in the United States for over 100 years without serious adverse events.
We know from the research today that depression is inflammation in the brain, that autism is inflammation in the brain, that ADD and dementia are inflammation in the brain. And if that's true, then the question is, what's causing the inflammation? How do you stop it? And how do you fix it?
You have to get your gut right, because having this thing, and I'm a psychiatrist, I didn't know one thing about leaky gut until I read the Ultramind solution. And then I'm like, oh, you have to get your gut right, because if your gut's not right, your brain's not right. You're likely to have things get inside your body that have no business in your body, which causes an autoimmune or an inflammatory response. So food really matters. Sugar is pro-inflammatory. And foods that quickly turn to sugar, bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, you often say eat them like a condiment. So diet really does matter. And our processed foods are loaded with pro-inflammatory omega-6s. They're not the right choice.
So keep your head up. Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back. No, don't you give